So it's time to harvest my dragon tongues. Check this out. Down in here I have tons of these beans. And that's about the size. I think you'll want to harvest them. We'll see. We're going to try. We're going to harvest some beans, cook up a big batch of them and see how good they are or how bad they are. If you harvest your beans when they're producing, you encourage the plant to put on more beans because the plant wants to finish its reproduction cycle, which is to make seeds. Of course, beans are seeds, so you get them when they're still a little bit young, not quite tough. Then your plant will blossom again and put on more of these beans. So I got a ton of them in here. I'm going to be here for a while. That's what we got so far. That's about 1/4 of my beans that I've harvested. There are beans all over. And you don't see them. If you don't come and check, you're not going to see what's going on down in here. And you might miss out. And your beans will get all stringy and harsh and tough. And you'll have to then treat them as dry beans, which means you'll need to wait to, you won't get the maximum harvest. It's the same thing with cowpeas. Like cowpeas, I like to wait till I like to pick them when they're young, but plump, where I can shuck the beans as, beans that we can cook fresh, and then wait for the next crop to come in and treat them as shell beans, leave them to dry on the plant. So you can see there's a lot of beans in here. I hope you can see that. Look at that. Wow. Lots of beans right here. Tons of beans. Look at them beans. Again, these are a bush bean. They're actually a wax type bean, but you can treat them as a green bean. And they're said to have kind of a nutty flavor. As I've been tasting them fresh, they're very beany. They've got that really strong bean flavor. But we'll see how they taste once they're cooked. All right, what we have here is more than a pound of beans, 1.152 pounds. Okay, folks, I've got my coronavirus hair going. Need a haircut, but I got myself a pound of dragon tongue beans. I have decided I'm gonna preserve these. I'm gonna keep them until I can come up with a good way to cook them, and so I need to freeze them. But what I have to do with this kind of bean is to blanch it first, and so I'll show you how to do that. Basically, get your big pot of water, get it boiling, put a good couple of 3 dashes of salt in there, and bring it up to a real tough boil. In the meantime, have you a big bucket full of ice water on the side, because once these cook for 2 to 2.5 minutes, you want to dunk them in that ice water and cease the cooking. And what this does is it preserves the plant, the beans. It helps the enzymes that would break down the plant be destroyed, and it basically is just a food preservation method that you need to learn about. It's so easy. What we want to do when we're preparing our beans and while our water's getting up to a boil is snap the ends off, get these stems off, and get the little points off the end. And you'll notice that when you boil these and blanch them, most of that purple color that is so distinctive of the dragon tongue will come out of there, and we'll be left with basically yellow beans. All right, we'll rinse these off and then we're gonna blanch them. Okay, here's my boiling salt water. I have my beans, about a pound of them. I'm gonna put them in there, set my timer to 2 minutes. There we go. All right, you can see these beans have lost their purple color. Now they're basically greenish yellow, and we're about done. There we go. All right, so yeah, being on the loose, you can see how the beans out of the garden are purple striped, these dragon tongues. But once you blanch them, you got to get them in this ice water. They're nice and yellow. Kind of look like a wax bean, and you want to cease that cooking process real quick. And then we can. Well, I'm making a mess. Didn't even make a mess, but you can strain these out of here and freeze them, and they will keep for about 8 months. I have read that you want these ideally as dry as possible when you freeze them. So I'm just gonna start working to separate these out onto a paper towel and just loosely dry them and make sure I don't have any ice cubes in there. Real easy stuff here. It's incredible to me that I put these beans in kind of as a afterthought of what I could put in that space. And I had these beans on hand. I'd always been curious about these things, and I never really considered I might get a good harvest. But man, here I got a pound of beans. I got food, man. That's 2 or 3 meals right there. If you dry them like this and you put them in the freezer, they won't stick together as much, and you'll be able to just draw them out of there like you would a pack of beans you buy down at the store, a bag of frozen green beans. So we'll dry them up a little bit. We'll put them back in our bag here. Let's see what they taste like. Tastes like a green bean to me. All right, there we go. Into the freezer they go. See how loose they are when you blanch them first and dry them off? I'm gonna put some in a pot here. And we're gonna boil those with a little bacon grease, kind of the traditional green bean way that we like to do them here. And then I'm gonna stir fry some. So let me get some of those out, get them thawing. Bacon grease, always good to have on hand. Put a generous teaspoon of that in there. A little bit of salt. You could put a piece of ham or ham hock, a pork, a turkey leg, little bits of turkey in here and boil this up for a good long while. And that's the real southern way of making boiled beans. We'll see if it works with these guys. And so in a pot, I've got my beans, I've got some salted water here. I guess about a teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to crack some black pepper in there. And you know, always use fresh black pepper. Don't buy that dried up old non-peppery stuff out of the can. I mean, get you a pepper cracker and you'll live life a little more happier. Alright, here are the boiled beans. These are boiled for about 15 minutes. In the South, at least where I come from, my mom used to cook these things, my grandparents. They would cook green beans and boil them for hours, and they would just get infused with whatever meat you put in there to provide some flavor. Nobody really liked, when I was growing up, crunchy beans. So this is that style of bean. You can see how floppy they are, and I'm going to try them. Holds up pretty well. I think if you cooked them longer, they'd get really mushy. This is just a traditional way of cooking beans with in a pot in the South. Yeah. Okay, so these dragon tongue beans can be used in the traditional way as you would any other green bean. They're kind of a wax bean, but they're kind of not. They're a yellow bean, some of them are green. You see it loses the purple striping whenever you cook it. And yeah, that's pretty good. I'm not a big fan of green beans, so I can't sit here and say, wow, this is great and I'll eat it every time. But I mean, when you got to put food on the table and you need a well-balanced diet, green beans are always a winner because they're productive. You saw when I harvested, these guys are very productive bush beans. And yeah, it serves well in the kitchen. So I'm just going to let these thaw out over here a little bit while I clean up my onions. These are my onions from the garden that didn't get real big, but they are very delicious. I think for a dish this size, just one fat clove of garlic is enough. The stir fry, got a handful of those. Got some green onions. I got some garlic smashed so we can let that Allison form in there and get that good garlic flavor. I got some purple onions from the garden. I don't know that I'm going to use them all because I've got the green ones already. Dash of salt, dash of Korean pepper flakes, a little dash of soy sauce, and a sprinkle of toasted sesame seeds. And we're going to start that as soon as those are thawed. Okay, I was just out in my garden and I noticed that a rodent has been eating my radish that I was allowing to go to seed. And I'm not going to be able to mature those seeds on the plant, so I picked some of the seed pods. These are delicious little radish type things. You can throw them in a salad, you can eat them raw. I'm going to throw them in a stir fry. When you're cooking any kind of stir fry, you don't want to use olive oil. You just want to use your typical, some other kind of neutral cooking oil, or you could use sesame oil, but it's a little strong. So I'm going to start out with my onion, and I'm going to sweat down this onion to get it separated. I don't want it completely translucent yet. And I'm going to start out with my garlic. Normally you cook garlic toward the end of your high heat segment because garlic burns real easy. And so, but I'm not going to go real high heat on. I'm not going to go very long on this. I'm just going to get it where they're fragrant and the onions are starting to fall apart. Put my green onions in there too. What the heck? Let's go with all of it. And my radish. Let's just put it all in there. This is when I wish I had a wok. I'm thinking about getting a gigantic outdoor wok and building me a rocket stove on which to cook. So I can do some outdoor cooking, street cooking style, like one of the channels I watch over in Korea where they cook giant family meals in a wok. Get a little salt in there. That ought to be in there. A little bit of pepper flake. Bring our beans over. Get them in there. Everybody all happy together. And we'll just stir fry this. These beans have already been blanched. You saw that in the video. But stir fry this all together. Get them nice and hot. A little shot of soy sauce. Just a little. Whoa, that's a little much. A little shaky shake of sesame seeds. That's what we're looking for. When the onions start to get a little translucent and start to lose their purple color, and when the beans are cooked all the way through, then we can serve this up. So there's our stir fry. Get a little bit of that. That works. Not too salty, although next time I will not put salt in, I will only use the soy sauce. But yeah, that's pretty good. These beans look limp, but they still have some crunch to them. They hold up pretty well. Not a lot of green bean flavor. I think the flavor is overwhelmed by all the other stuff that's in here. But yeah, very good stir fry, nice and spicy with that Korean pepper in there. All right, well those beans are surprisingly versatile. And although I'm not a real fan of wax beans, I think I'll grow these beans again. They're really productive, and we're going to see throughout. I'm going to see how long they last through the heat. And yeah, dragon tongue beans, you should try some. Thank you for joining us on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Thank you for your subscription. If you haven't subscribed, please consider it. We'd be humbled. Come back and join us again next time. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Happy gardening. Bye-bye.